We just got a ton of new cards from the Age of Apocalypse expansion in Marvel Champions, and what's a better way to celebrate that than a deck factory? So today, we're going to be talking about Sidekick. This is a brand new archetype-defining card in leadership. As we're going to be talking about this, we're going to go through, we're going to build a deck, but be thinking about what you like to run Sidekick with, and let me know in the comments, drop a deck link. I'd love to take a look at those. Those are a lot of fun. So let's just dive in and talk about this one cost upgrade. You attach it to an identity specific ally, and then they get +2 hit points, and then they're considered your sidekick. It also opens up a response that states that after your alter ego makes a basic recovery, you can heal 2 damage from your sidekick. So this allows you to keep your identity specific ally on the table for much longer than normal, and opens up some interesting combos, which we'll talk about here in a sec. Now, this does have to be an identity specific ally, but it does not have to be yours. So one kind of fun thing you can do is you can use like make the call to go grab your teammate's black cat, say, if you wanted to, and use that as your sidekick. That's fun, that's interesting. It's not really what we're going to be talking about, but bonus points if you talk and build a deck where you call on somebody else's ally for your psychic. I think that's going to be really fun. That'd be like a fun two-handed game, and I may do one. But the majority of the utilization out of Sidekick is going to be from the ally that comes in your own signature kit, and that's what we're going to be focusing this video on. There are a ton of great options for this card, and we're going to talk about those, but let's talk about the mechanics of it first and break it down. It's a 1 cost for 2 hit points plus healing. It's pretty good. It can add multiple activations to your ally, giving it that +2 hit point boost, and then if you are making a basic recovery, you can basically indefinitely keep that ally on the table, which can be amazing in certain situations. But there are a couple of drawbacks. It does have to be an identity specific ally, so you're going to have to get your ally onto the table before you draw this card. If you don't, you're going to have to see this card. If you see this card before your ally, you may have to wait like an entire deck pass before you're able to drop this card on them. And if your entire deck hinges or synergizes off of them being your sidekick, you're looking at a lot of dead cards in your first deck pass, which is probably one of the most crucial times where you don't want to see dead cards. A lot of times, especially in solo, you don't have that much time. So if your strategy hinges on it, you're going to have a contingency plan. And that's where Suit Up comes into play. So this is a 2-cost alter ego action that allows you to search your deck and discard pile for an ally and an upgrade that can be attached to that ally and add them to your hand. So you can grab your identity specific and sidekick, and you're good to go. The math on this is pretty okay, right? You're paying 3 effective resources, the 2 cost plus the card itself, and getting 2 cards back. So it's really 1 effective resource to tutor both of these. You do have to be an alter ego, which can be a challenging ask for solo play, but you can also use this to get your Voltron online. So this is not, I think it's geared towards grabbing your sidekick, but you don't have to. You can grab any ally and a eligible upgrade for that ally. So when I'm building a hero, and we may see this in the deck build today, when I'm building a hero, if I'm running this card, I also want to run this alongside a Voltron target or 2, so that they're not just dead cards once I do get my sidekick out there. Another way you can get your signature ally onto the table is using like make the call or call for backup to get them out faster, and then hopefully before you get to see that sidekick card. So there's a couple of ways that you can manipulate the game state and manipulate your deck so that you can get it out there. But let's talk about why you would even want to have a sidekick. Other than being fun, thematic, and giving them more health, there's a new card called Side by Side. So this is a 2-cost event that comes in Age of Apocalypse, and it says you can ready your sidekick. That is a cost of the card. So note that you have to be able to ready your sidekick in order to play the card, but you ready your sidekick, which the cost is a benefit in this situation, and then you get to ready your hero. So that's good. That's really good right there. But you also get to choose one of 2 options. You can choose to either heal 1 from both characters, or they get +1 attack and +1 thwarts until the end of the phase. This is pretty awesome. This card, being able to ready your hero, almost pays for itself in terms of cost efficiency, but being able to heal an ally or get that stat boost, just awesome. Now, there's a lot of setup to go into playing this card. You have to have your identity specific ally. You have to have Psychic. They have to be exhausted. There's a lot of setup, but once you do get these set up, it feels pretty good. Now, All of this being said, and what we're going to talk about, the last thing that I'm going to talk about before we talk about good targets for this card is multiplayer versus solo play. I think there are few decks where this actually makes a lot of sense to run in solo play. Now, when I say that, I'm mainly thinking of a power level, right? You can run this card, you can have fun, and you can win with this card. But is it going to be better than another strategy? Maybe. It's pretty slow. There's a lot of setup. In multiplayer, the games are typically a little bit longer. You have a little bit more leeway in losing a little bit of tempo if you see that sidekick first. So I think in multiplayer, you're going to get a lot better of an impact from this kind of archetype than you would in a true solo play. That being said, but just have fun with it. It's a fun game. Enjoy it. Now let's talk about some targets. First off, we do not like heroes who don't have signature allies, right? Poor Hulk. Or we don't necessarily want to use this strategy for heroes that have when entering play abilities for their signature ally. So like Wolverine, Jubilee is a when entering play. We probably don't want to Psychic Jubilee because we would rather have her enter play multiple times rather than just sit on the table where the sidekicks, they just want to sit on the table. And since side by side can ready, we want allies who have either high stats or have an on attack or exhaustible abilities. And so the natural conclusion in the first deck that I built for this archetype was X23 with Honey Badger, and this is pretty much their best friend, right? Because Honey Badger, after Honey Badger takes damage, we get to ready X23, and if we're getting more health, Honey Badger sitting there with that 2 health, that downside is negated a little bit with this sidekick and you just get to ready. There is actually a video replay that I think is coming out on the channel tomorrow. I say I think, like I have no control over it. It's coming out on the channel tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. I thought that deck was a ton of fun. It's not the one we're focusing on because I wanted to try something different, but it is a really, really good target for sidekick. I also tried a Spider-Woman deck where I sidekick Captain Marvel, and that one I was a little bit more disappointed with. It felt very, very slow. Captain Marvel is very expensive. I had to try and get Captain Marvel and Sidekick on the table, but then Captain Marvel getting a ready multiple times because I was running command teams and inspiring presence, things that ready Captain Marvel, which would then get me a card draw. So that was pretty fun, but I had a really, really tough time getting her on the table, and I felt like once I finally got her on the table and the engine was up and running, I was pretty much overrun. Now, there is going to be a replay of that game as well, so make sure to check that out and watch me lose. A couple other targets, someone the other day, and I forgot who, I apologize, mentioned Drax with Mantis. So I wanted to call this one out because I thought this was a really clever way, or a really clever target for this type of card, because Mantis doesn't have a on attack ability, but she can exhaust and heal Drax. And so with the side-by-side, you want to ready Drax multiple times, and so the side-by-side readies Drax, which readies Mantis, which can heal Drax again, and Drax gets another attack. Drawing another card from D3 sounds awesome. I really want to see a Drax deck, so make sure you drop a Drax deck if you have it built in the comments. There are a lot of good options. So along with Drax, let me know what your favorite ones are in the comments. But today, we are going to be focusing on my favorite Avenger. We're actually going to be building a Quicksilver Sidekick deck. So let's go ahead and hop down to the table and check it out. Oh my gosh, I love Quicksilver so much. So this is a Quicksilver deck that is all built around Sidekick. So Sidekick is that new card. And as we all know and love, our signature ally in Quicksilver is Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch is a 3-cost ally, 1/1/3, and has an interrupt. When you use one of Scarlet Witch's basic powers, discard the top of the encounter deck. For each boost icon, she gets +1 to that power. So pretty nice, right? Probably a 2/2, but all the way up to like a 4 on an activation, which is pretty awesome. And so Scarlet Witch having a Psychic, getting multiple readies, I think is going to work pretty well for Quicksilver. But the cool thing here, and what Scarlet Witch and what we're really kind of gearing up for, is Quicksilver's ability in Pietro's form is Superpower Siblings. So we're actually not running Order and Chaos, which is their team up card. I don't love their team up card, so we're just going to avoid that. But Pietro, if Scarlet Witch is on the table, we can Superpower Siblings to discard 2 cards from our hand and draw 3 cards if Scarlet Witch is here. So now we are +1 card with Pietro's Superpowered Siblings. If we're rolling down to a basic recover with Pietro, which we can then heal off of Scarlet Witch to keep her, online, then we can trigger this card and be basically +2 cards over 2 rounds, right? Time you roll down, trigger superpower siblings, that's +1 card, trigger it again on the trip back up for a second. So there's a lot of like I'm pretty excited. I haven't yet to play this game. I think probably when this comes out, I will be 2 hours away from playing the game on stream, and so we'll see how it works. But this is kind of the idea, because Sidekick wants us to basic recover. We can heal Scarlet Witch, and then that's going to also allow us to trigger our ability here. Now we have a couple of ways to find Scarlet Witch. We've got Call for Backup, which can get Scarlet Witch, and we're also going to run 3 copies of Suit Up. Suit Up is that identity search your deck and discard pile for an ally and an upgrade, so you can get them together. Now, one thing to note here is that with Scarlet Witch being a 3-cost card, if we have Suit Up in our opening hand, we can play both of these on turn 1. So that's really, really critical. And one of the things I was running into with Spider-Woman not being able to play Sidekick and Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel costs 4 on turn 1 unless I had a double. Now, it would be nice if we didn't have to dump our entire hand for this, but it is possible. So that is something to consider, that if we have a Suit Up in our first hand, we can play both of these. We're going to combo that. Another way that we can get these two on the table is Nick Fury with card draw and White Tiger with card draw. Now, typically I'm playing Expert, so White Tiger is going to cycle a couple of cards, but regardless, throughout the game, these are going to be great. It's just Suit Up is probably our main way to get Scarlet Witch and Sidekick. Call for Backup a close second, and then these... They can, but really these are here for chump blocking and just kind of being good. Now, with Scarlet Witch being a Sidekick, we also get open up to Side by Side. And Side by Side works really, really well because we get to ready Quicksilver. Quicksilver wants to be ready, and I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit because every single time Quicksilver readies, we get to ready Friction Resistance, which is one of the best resource generators in the game. Friction Resistance, if we can use it and we can ready, then we can ready Friction Resistance and then use it again and again and again. So we're going to always get it with the super speed ability if we're able to trigger that response. But now Side by Side is a little bit discounted because we know that we are getting that money back with Friction Resistance. Friction Resistance is so important. We're also going to bring a superpower training, but we also have all of his like stat upgrades that if we can drop our Friction Resistance early in the game, we can also use this to target some of his other upgrades. So there's a lot of that going on, but that's kind of a lot of the fun stuff here, especially if we're running it with a maximum velocity. Now Side by Side, always be running super speed. There's just a lot of ways to trigger this maximum velocity, which is giving them +2, +2, +2. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. Because we are going to want to recover with Quicksilver in order to heal Scarlet Witch and keep her on the table for the entirety of the game. The super speed response doesn't always work with Quicksilver, especially if we are exhausted when we flip into hero. So we're actually going to bring along 2 copies of Ready to Rumble so we can flip, use Ready to Rumble to stand up, and then we can use our super speed response. So we can basic, ready, basic again. So Ready to Rumble is here, so that's an option for us. We're going to use Professor X is going to give us basically the safe trip down that we need. Now, a lot of times in a true solo game, and I do think that this would work in a multiplayer or a true solo, this one is kind of geared towards true solo. I probably should have said that earlier, but this Professor X allows us to confuse, flip down, and then have, a safe trip. But standard 3, if you're counting your advances, you should be okay in a lot of scenarios, but it's here just to have. Now, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the pre-deck build portion of this video, where I like to run Suit Up with other Voltron targets, and that's the other half of this deck. We're bringing along Iron Man, who is potentially the best Voltron target in the game, and then Ronan, who is another really good Voltron target. So Iron Man, we reduce the cost to play each upgrade on Iron Man by 1. Ronan gets +1 thwart and +1 attack while he has an upgrade. Now, these two are going to be sitting on the table with Scarlet Witch, and we're going to also bring along a Triskelion to open up a fourth ally slot so that we can cycle in our other friends here. Now, if we have to make a decision and we have to make a call, Scarlet Witch is number one priority because Scarlet Witch is going to enable us to play more cards via superpower siblings. Second is going to be Iron Man. And ideally, Suit Up is going to play Scarlet Witch. Call for Backup is going to play Iron Man, and then we can play Ronin fairly inexpensively at that printed cost of 3. So that's kind of the route that I see this going. We are going to bring along a lot of upgrades because we want upgrades here. And then also Suit Up can grab Iron Man and Ronin some upgrades. With Suit Up, we also have the consideration that in a pinch, we can chump block with Ronin. I don't really want to chump block with Iron Man. Actually, you know what? You can probably do both because it's going to be less expensive to rebuild Iron Man up because you reduce the cost to play all of the upgrades on Iron Man. So you can chump block with these two in a pinch. I would not recommend doing it frequently, knowing that we have Suit Up, that you can go grab Iron Man and a upgrade and put them on the table. A lot of the rest of the deck is upgrades. We've got 2 reinforced suits, and all of these upgrades are going to be targeted for Iron Man and Ronin. Scarlet Witch with her 3 health, up to 4 team training, which I haven't shown yet, but team training is in the deck. We'll be able to utilize the basic recovery to keep Scarlet Witch alive enough, I believe. We're going to bring 2 power gloves, so after an attached ally attacks or thwarts, we get to deal 1 damage to an enemy. And we're also going to bring along actually 3 inspired. And so I said that most or all of these upgrades are going to be for Iron Man and Ronin. Our 3rd copy of inspired over here is going to be for Scarlet Witch and bumping her to a 2/2 plus her interruptibility. So we do have a little bit of love over there for Scarlet Witch. And then finally, the last one is going to be Sidearm. Sidearm is going to give us +1 attack and also allow us to get around that retaliate because it does give our friends over here ranged, and so ranged can tear apart Voltron allies. I did tease it a little bit earlier. We got team training, which is going to up the health of everybody on the table. I am realizing that I forgot a card, so I'm going to be pulling out a card over here. But team training is going to help us keep all of our allies alive. It's really going to be mostly beneficial for Scarlet Witch and our Voltrons, but probably not honestly going to be too much of a benefit over here. What we're going to be doing over here, we're going to be playing them, drawing cards, and then jump blocking with them. That's what they live for, right? But team training is going to allow us to get extra activations out of Iron Man, Ronin, and Scarlet Witch. The card that I forgot is a card that should go in every Quicksilver deck is Depth Focus because pretty much all of his cards are superpowered, and so we do want that resource generator on the table. And then we're going to top it off with the 3 doubles, and that is Quicksilver Suit Up. And I'm pretty excited for this because Quicksilver wants to ready. This archetype leans into wanting him to ready. We can then, if we're running this in multiplayer, hopefully someone can bring along a Heroic Intuition or a combat training for us so we can get multiple, or we can get more utilization out of our basic activation so we can pump up those stats. But we're also just like looking with all of our upgrades in our own kit that can bump up the stats. Scarlet Witch is also pretty high impact, and so kind of the way that I see this working out is Quicksilver can be flexible. Scarlet Witch is probably going to be doing a lot of thwarting when she has inspired. She's thwarting for probably 3 a turn, and solo we're feeling real good about that, right? It's going to clear Call for Backup and superpower training in solo, so we're feeling good. And then Iron Man and Ronin are really going to be focused on damage because we've got, you know, a damage after we activate with Power Gloves, a +1 attack, a +1 attack. So Ronin's going to be up to 2, 3, 4, 5 attack. Iron Man is going to be looking at 4 attack. I'm pumped. I think I've come to realize that I do enjoy that Voltron ally or the Voltron build. Quicksilver gets a free defend every single round, so he's going to be able to protect those Voltrons. But let me know what you think about this deck list in the comments. Yeah, let me know if there's anything you would change about it. And I'm excited to try it out. As of recording this video, I'm going to be trying it out tomorrow. If you're watching this video early on Monday morning, it will probably be live right now, so make sure you go check out the live stream. I appreciate you all. Let me know what decks you're building, and thanks for hanging out. Peace.
Bye.